What is this young boy doing? He's using various objects, like a coaster and a drink bottle, to repeatedly and aggressively poke at a map of Japan hanging on the wall. His father tries to get him to stop, but the boy keeps going, as if he's been wound up and can't stop moving. In the end, both the father and son pick up a chair and continue poking at the map of Japan. What led to this bizarre behavior? The Chinese government has designated 2025 as the 80th anniversary of the victory of the War of Resistance against Japan, and to mark the occasion, aired multiple propaganda films over the summer, focusing on the theme of anti-Japanese sentiment. One such film, Dead to Rights, has directly contributed to emotional outbursts and severe psychological distress among many children who've watched it. The film tells the story of a 15-year-old boy working as an apprentice at a photo studio in Nanjing, China. While developing film brought by a Japanese officer, he discovers photos depicting the Japanese army's massacres, rapes, and looting. He risks his life to preserve these photos, ultimately selecting 16 to be bound into a book. This film highlights how this photo album played a key role in the trial of Japanese war criminals in February 1946. On August 2nd, a mother from Anhui posted a video showing her child aggressively hitting a map of Japan with various tools, saying that she had only shown him a short clip from Dead to Rights. Another video showed a young girl crying after watching the film, saying, "We need to wipe out all the Japanese." In Henan, a 9-year-old boy tore up his prized collection of Japanese anime cards after watching Dead to Rights. Some users on X commented that the child is practically ruined, adding that growing up in such a household, watching the film wouldn't have mattered much, the child would have been ruined anyway. One user replied, "Kids are easily influenced and easily changed. We all went through patriotic and anti-Japanese education when we were young, but eventually we saw through it, right?" After the release of Dead to Rights, Japanese media personality Akio Yaita posted on Facebook, criticizing the film for being filled with historical inaccuracies and contradictions, despite its claim of being based on true events. He pointed out that the military photographers mainly focused on documenting combat and popular scenes, not civilian abuse. They also had their own film processing equipment to avoid leaking military secrets, suggesting that the film is more fiction than history. Longtime users on social media noted that the CCP's propaganda campaign had backfired. Originally designed to distract and reduce discontent, the brainwashing film coincidentally overlapped with the recent protests in Sichuan. Recently, a bullying incident in Jiangyou, Sichuan, sparked a massive riot and protest, with people even singing the Chinese national anthem as a form of resistance. The film Dead to Rights, originally titled The Nanjing Photo Studio in Chinese, was humorously renamed the Jiangyou Photo Studio by the public, showing how the recent events in Jiangyou overshadowed the film's original message. The CCP's attempt to use propaganda to manipulate public opinion has backfired, with the film now being associated with local protests rather than its intentional historical narrative. In recent months, a series of alarming incidents in China have pushed the public to the edge. People drinking contaminated water, a Beijing nursing home deliberately flooded, and elementary schools setting up organ donation banks. The public's frustration is at an all-time high, prompting the CCP to prepare extra propaganda films to release when the discontent reaches its peak. Aside from Dead to Rights, the CCP has also planned to release another propaganda film, 731. However, with so many negative events emerging quickly, they decided to delay the release of 731 until the so-called September 18th Memorial Day for the Japanese invasion of China. The CCP's obsession with Japan is nothing new. During a time when the CCP was nearly defeated by the Nationalist Army, they successfully provoked Japan to invade China, even collaborating with Japanese forces to fight the nationalist troops. Now, Japan has become a convenient scapegoat for the CCP to cover up its own failures, and they've become experts at using it for this purpose. But in recent years, those peddling anti-Japanese sentiments have found it harder to gain attention domestically. As a result, they've taken their campaign to Japan, trying to open a new front in their anti-Japanese movement.
Would you dare sing the red waving flag on the streets of Japan? If you do, I'll follow you for life. Don't worry guys, you can keep an eye on me. The speakers are ready. Let's start. The red star, red flag, you are my pride.
Many people believe that this individual is a typical example of someone brainwashed by the Communist Party, also known as a Little Pink. However, they've all been misled. He's actually manipulating the domestic Little Pinks, making them believe that singing Communist Party propaganda songs on the streets of Japan is dangerous, and that he's being brave. In reality, he knows the Japanese won't do anything to him. But he only dares to sing the red waving flag and won't sing the Chinese national anthem. This is because he knows that in China, he can't casually sing the Chinese anthem, March of the Volunteers, while holding up the Chinese five-star flag. The anthem's opening line, "Rise, those who refuse to be slaves," has over time become a symbol of resistance against tyranny for many Chinese people. Singing the national anthem has become an act of defiance, especially against the government's repression. He knows that if he were to sing the Chinese national anthem on platforms like Douyin, he would face severe consequences upon returning to China, ranging from being banned from the platform or questioned by the authorities to being arrested and imprisoned. So, who exactly is this person? He's a so-called patriotic dealer, someone who exploits the little pink community for profit. They use the guise of patriotism to deceive others, yet they don't truly care about the country or the people suffering. In fact, they hold the 50-cent army and little pinks in contempt. They position themselves as spiritual leaders of their brainwashed followers, ruthlessly profiting on their naivety. Such individuals often head to Japan, which has become the best source of content for creating little pinks and performances of patriotism. Japan provides a perfect backdrop for stirring up support from Chinese followers with minimal effort. However, they've recently realized that the Japanese public has started to show increasing hostility toward these patriotic dealers. Even more, many rational overseas Chinese strongly despise them, believing they're disgracing all Chinese people. Recently, a Chinese vlogger living in Japan posted a live streaming video of one such patriotic dealer, exposing his inappropriate behavior in a Japanese restaurant. In the video, this individual, assumed to be a little pink, is streaming himself ordering food. Although he can understand Japanese, he deliberately mocks the staff using awkward Chinese-style Japanese. He continues loudly talking into his phone, ignoring the staff's polite request to lower his volume. The vlogger stated, "This little pink knows that speaking loudly in Japan will disturb others, but even after being reminded, he continues to raise his voice. From his words, you can sense his disrespect, as if being a Communist Party little pink makes him special." This patriotic dealer then complains about the restaurant, breaking through pairs of chopsticks, claiming the quality is poor. When the noodles arrive, he says the portion is too small, his voice gets louder, and the staff reminds him again to lower his volume. After being reminded several times, he even pretends to be Korean and greets the staff in Korean. Eventually, other customers, fed up with the disturbance, leave the restaurant. The vlogger said, "This person is shameless to the extreme. Watching him made my blood pressure rise. It's as if he can't understand anything. Even after disturbing others countless times, he pretends to be Korean to avoid responsibility. This video should be translated into Japanese so that all the Japanese people can see what kind of qualities these little pinks really have." In recent years, the Japanese public's perception of the Chinese government has worsened, particularly due to China's relentless anti-Japanese propaganda. Many in Japan struggle to understand this ongoing hatred, especially with a series of violent incidents involving Japanese citizens in China. Just last year, 2 Japanese elementary school children were killed in China. Recently, on the evening of July 31st, where a Japanese mother and child were attacked with what appeared to be a stone-like object while they were at a subway station. The mother was injured and hospitalized, but not in a life-threatening condition. A male suspect has been arrested. The following day, Japanese media visited the Shanghai Square station on subway line number 1 to report on the incident. A female subway worker, and what appeared to be an undercover police officer, spotted them and reported it to the police. Soon after, a police officer rushed to the scene, attempting to stop the journalists from filming, but when he realized they were Japanese reporters, he said nothing and quickly turned away. After the police left, the subway staff remained diligent and tried to stop the Japanese reporters from filming in Chinese. However, the reporters completely ignored him. On social media, users mocked the CCP's stability maintenance efforts, pointing out how the Chinese-style freedom of speech was clearly on display during the live broadcast. It's important to note that this isn't the first incident of this kind in Suzhou. A similar attack targeting Japanese nationals occurred in the city in June 2023. On June 24, 2024, an unemployed man from Anhui who lived in Suzhou, Zhou Jiasheng, attacked a Japanese mother and child with a knife near a Japanese school while they were waiting for a school bus. He then followed them into a vehicle and continued his assault, fatally stabbing Hu Youping, a female security guard who intervened to stop the attack. The incident shocked both Chinese and Japanese community. Zhou was arrested and sentenced to death on January 23, 2024. The sentence was carried out in April. For some reason, China's Supreme Court publication, People's Court Daily, waited until July to honor Hu Youping in one of its reports, stating, "Heroes may pass, but their spirit lives on." Ironically, just 3 days after the article was published, another Japanese citizen was attacked in Suzhou. Some Chinese online users commented, After watching Dead to Rights, I felt something like this was bound to happen. This film is one of the few designed purely to stir up hatred. The director himself has openly admitted that his goal was to make the audience know who the enemy is. Following the recent attack on a Japanese citizen in China, a user on Zhihu, a Chinese social media platform, commented, "If I now call for calm and restraint and say that letting go of hatred is good for ordinary people, you'll probably dismiss me or question my motives. So what can I say? Keep hating. It's not the first time people have been used as pawns. The Boxer Rebellion and the rebel factions in the past were discarded in the end after all, just like garbage." Analysts have pointed out that the CCP's anti-Japanese brainwashing campaign has gotten out of control. The government can no longer effectively manage the pace of its propaganda. As public discontent continues to rise in China, the frequency of anti-Japanese messaging has only increased, leading to emotional outbursts among the brainwashed public. At the same time, the Japanese government and public are pushing back, which the CCP did not anticipate. Another Chinese vlogger living in Japan recently posted a video showing a public restroom in Japan with a sign written in simplified Chinese. The sign reads, "Keep the toilets clean. China is a developed country, right?" People in developed countries keep their restrooms clean. People in developed countries don't steal toilet paper. Have a safe trip. The blogger pointed out that the sign targets the rude behavior of certain Chinese women, often associated with the little pinks. Not only do they lack manners, but they've been brainwashed from a young age to believe that without the Communist Party, there would be no new China. Wherever they go, it's the people around them who end up suffering. The Chinese government's efforts have only deepened anti-Chinese sentiment in Japan. Recently, Japan has seen an uptake in rare violent incidents targeting Chinese nationals. On the morning of July 31st, 2 Chinese men were severely injured after being attacked with iron pipes by 4 individuals on the streets of Tokyo. The victims stated they didn't know their attackers and weren't asked for money. Witnesses reported that all 6 individuals were wearing construction worker uniforms, and the 4 attackers fled the scene by car. That same day, a well-known Chinese 50-cent influencer shared a video from Japanese independent media outlets, using the incident to stir up anti-Japanese sentiment. However, the influencer seemed unaware that the video, originally reported by ANN News, included footage of the Tiananmen Square tank man. This influencer, known as God's Eagle, is a prominent patriotic blogger in China, often accused of spreading false information and fueling hatred to gain followers and profit from little pinks. Many Chinese users, frustrated by the CCP's rule, regularly criticize these 50-cent accounts. After discovering the video, they took action by reporting the account on Weibo. The account has since been banned, its content deleted, and it no longer appears on the platform. Some users, identifying as anti-communists, commented, "He's finished this time." In recent years, Chinese media outlets have been accused of stealing overseas videos. Japanese media personalities have started inserting sensitive footage into their reports to protect their work from being stolen, with Tiananmen Square footage being a commonly used resource. Beyond media outlets, some Japanese video games also incorporate similar anti-theft codes. Japanese restaurants, repeatedly harassed by little pinks, have also started posting sensitive photos, including images from the Tiananmen protests. This tactic seems to work, as these patriotic vloggers no longer harass restaurants due to their inability to film on-site videos. One online user remarked, "The Chinese men attacked in Tokyo might have been attacked by fellow Chinese, as they were all wearing the same construction company uniforms, and recent incidents of Chinese nationals being kidnapped, robbed, or even killed overseas shows that the perpetrators are almost always Chinese. More and more signs suggest that most of these crimes stem from the Chinese government. Now, not only ordinary Japanese locals, but also the Japanese government is starting to see through the CCP." This video was filmed in Japan and shows a political rally led by Oryu Hirano, Japan's first candidate for parliament, to publicly support Hong Kong's anti-extradition protests. Initially, it was assumed that ordinary Japanese citizens were indifferent to politics, but the turnout at the rallies suggested a growing sense of opposition, similar to Taiwan's anti-communist demonstrations. Analysts consider this a promising start, as it shows that the CCP's actions have pushed the Japanese public to their limit. After years of being manipulated and vilified by the CCP, Japan is now beginning to take action. The Japanese public is increasingly recognizing that their true adversary is the CCP government, not the Chinese people. As a result, there's growing support for anti-communist movements at the government level. Some analysts believe that Japan could learn from the Czech Republic. In mid-July, Czech President Petr Pavel signed a legal amendment making it clear that promoting communism would be treated the same as promoting Nazism. The amendment to Article 403 of the Czech Criminal Code states, anyone who establishes, supports, or promotes National Socialism, communism, or other movements that suppress human rights and freedoms or promote hostility towards any group will be sentenced to 1 to 5 years in prison. According to Deutsche Welle, for the staunch anti-communists in the Czech Republic, this represents the end of a long journey. After the 1989 Velvet Revolution, they've pushed for communists to be treated the same as National Socialists or other authoritarian ideologies. This has now become a reality. Analysts hope that Japan will soon take similar action. If that happens, patriotic profiteers, the CCP flag, will disappear from Japan's streets, replaced by a cleaner, more respectful environment.